Hi, I'm Nathan Wesson, and this is my research proposal on the application of ethics and law. In my research project, I would like to encourage my participants to consider their views on right and wrong, more specifically, how they would categorize them personally. My questionnaire itself will be made up of ethical quarrels, which the reader will be asked to give two answers on, one on the morality and one on the lawfulness of the situation. My goal is to shed light on the standings of the average person when it comes to common practices and common problems and reactions that we tend to do as a people. I believe that the distance between what is right and what is acceptable is far too large. From my point of view, the inadequacy of what is acceptable is being put on full display on the street level and at the highest administrative level. Our president can disrupt the democratic process and tweet like a cockroach that just got sprayed with Raid, but a teacher can't publicly post a video if it contains a curse word or a political opinion. These officials can order drone strikes on unsuspecting enemies, but if I have a green card or a felony, I can't defend myself in my own home. Laws must be questioned indefinitely to maintain their validity in the truth and correctness. That correctness is only based on the ethics of the people who wrote them. These laws are interpreted and enforced by citizens under them, so in that regard, shouldn't they be followed by everyone? Are they? I don't think they are. In my experience, an expensive lawyer goes a very long way in our society, and so does influence, and so does power. But money and influence can alter your perspectives on right and wrong, just like your age, your gender, your origin. I know people who see fines and these things as price tags. And I would like to hear from these types too. There hasn't been a large amount of research done on the topic that I'm pursuing, but it is important to note that I took inspiration from the purpose of each article that I included. Each of them is trying to answer an ethical question with the hopes of changing legal views on the subject. In the paper, Collectively, Evil and the Dynamics of Moral Value, the writers make the argument that morality has lost its way and become a contradictory theory to modern law and order. I personally believe that we have grown beyond the need and the ability to regulate things, to regulate everything, and sometimes it is very important to rely on other means. Sometimes morals require you to do more than the law asks, but do they ever require you to break the law? I want to attack these problems on a more general basis. There are way too many reasons why the answer could be what it is, so I want to provide the question simply and gain a cumulative sample population to gain and make deductions from. There are 4 questions that I wanted to focus on when considering the answers and tallying them all up. When questioned personally and privately, will a person side with the law or what they believe is right? How often do the person's morals contradict the law and vice versa? How often do these two answers coincide and how often do they differ? And what is considered wrong versus objectively wrong? That question is more for the questionnaire itself. For the variables, I'll provide a series of questions, all of them varying in depth and context, but all asking how the taker feels about the moral permissibility of the subject and how they feel in regards to the lawful permissibility of the subject. There will normally be a right answer when considering the law in most cases, and giving the taker a choice is the key. That's the important part. And the moral permissibility sided question will give the taker an opportunity to reflect and empathize with the subject and give an idea of how they feel personally about the subject. I came up with 4 example questions to form a general question structure. Here's the first one. Driving 10 miles over the speed limit. lawfully permissible or impermissible, morally permissible or impermissible. Those will be two separate questions pertaining to the same subject. Each one will pertain the same answers but will have a different subject. Firing someone who is fleeing but is suspected of theft. Is it acceptable for authorities to use live fire on protesters? Misleading consumers into believing you are selling a mystery healing elixir. These are just very general ideas, but they can be reworded and rephrased in different situations. And I feel like context is important, but for this specific case, it would be better to remove that context. I think a public event like a crab feast or a festival or a campus banquet would be a great place to find a metropolitan group of people with a lot of variation. I would use the questionnaire as an admission tool. Once they completed it, that would be their admission fare, or it would be a part of their admission fare. The survey shouldn't take very long. It would take between 5 and 10 minutes would be the maximum. No personal details will be taken from the taker except their age, gender, and ethnicity, and an optional country of origin story that will provide a little bit of extra background, I guess. If possible, I'd prefer to have each person in their own cubicle to shield them from other people and give them a sense of privacy so that they can answer honestly. You don't want to answer honestly when somebody's looking over your shoulder all the time. There will be a collection bin with blank surveys and a slot in the wall of each cubicle to have a collection box so that nobody can get into it. And to start to tally up all the questions, I will add the answers up and separate them by age, gender, ethnicity, and origin, and I'll get a lot of answers to questions based on that, and then I'll keep subdividing them and make inferences. Who gets to decide what's lawful and what isn't? How long has it been that way? And how long should it be so? We have to ask these questions constantly to maintain the status quo, but to maintain their validity as well. I want people to question general morality and their own. What the majority of people believe can be wrong, and I'm asking my subjects to take their own side, in a sense. This research is so important for the future because you can't expect things to just run smoothly forever. Eventually, the old way has to be remastered or phased out. If the old way does not work, it has to change. Thank you.